Hello there. Hey, hope everyone's doing well. Sorry for the slight delay in getting started. Just figuring out how the YouTube live platform works. So it's a little bit of an experiment today. We've experimented with X.con for live streaming, and now we're giving YouTube live a go. So hopefully it's going to be a fun chat as we talk about the tokenomics and DeFi capabilities on Convex. See, we've got a few people in chat already. Hi there, R. Is that Rich there? So feel free to like fire through any questions and stuff. We've got the live chat going, so we can all join in on the discussion there. Okay, hands up. I haven't yet figured out quite how to add extra participants to the video chat at the moment. If anyone knows how to do that and wants to give me some live coaching on how to make these things work on YouTube, then hints very much appreciated. But otherwise, we'll just get started and talk about some of the exciting things about tokenomics. And as I say, please just fire through any questions or things that people are keen to discuss as we go along. Yep. So awesome. So yeah. So starting off, I wanted to just kick off with a bit of talk about how I think about tokenomics and how some of that then fed into some of the design on the Convex platform. So one of the things that I think is really important is to get back to, well, what is a token? Yeah, and it almost goes back to the original question of what is money, and to me the important point is money has to be something where you can exchange it for something of value. Yeah. So that if you think about the original conception of money, it's all about what is it as a means of exchange and as a store of value, and then being able to use it then as a sort of a form of exchange. So sort of going back to those sort of principles, a token, like any kind of money, really, it's simply about what can you actually exchange that for, what kind of utility or what kind of exchange value or what kind of value creation does that token facilitate. So that ties to money, is fiat money. It applies to crypto. It applies to tokens. It applies to utility tokens like the Convex coin. So what is it that the Convex coin specifically gets you? Well, it is a unit which enables you to execute certain functions and capabilities on the network. Most specifically, if you want to actually make any transaction on the Convex platform, you have to pay a small transaction fee in Convex coins to make that transaction happen. Now, that transaction fee is very small, and you're talking here like a tiny fraction of a cent. It's a sort of level that no one's ever going to really care about. But we have to make it non-zero, because if you don't make it non-zero, then there's obviously the risk that someone just creates an infinitely large number of fake transactions, and obviously that just stops the network from being available and usable for everyone else who wants to conduct legitimate business. So the transaction fee basically is simply a way of making sure that the network continues to operate smoothly. And also the other reason for the transaction fee is it's a way of paying the people who operate nodes, who operate peers and infrastructure on the network. So the transaction fee has that important purpose of saying, okay, well, these transaction fees are going to get added up, shared out, and distributed to the people who operate peers on the network. So if you think about Convex as really, it's an ecosystem where you've got users who want to actually execute transactions. You've got service providers who are providing services or assets or capabilities that those users access. And you have infrastructure providers who are providing the peers. They're providing the compute and the storage and the validation of the security of the network. So the ecosystem has to work in the interest of all participants. And the Convex coin provides that sort of lubrication, if you like, to enable those transactions to happen and to make sure that everyone gets fairly rewarded. So that's a little bit of context, but I think it's important because the purpose of why we have a Convex coin in the first place and the motivations for the design of the tokenomics are all very tightly interlinked. So what is it we want? Well, we want to be able to reward. We want to be able to reward peers. You want to be able to reward the infrastructure, people who run the infrastructure. We want to be able to enable users to execute very low cost transactions, but to get reliable, secure results back. And we also want a unit of exchange so that people in the ecosystem can also use it as an exchange currency. So if you wanted to swap it for different kinds of tokens, it's got exchange value as a sort of common currency available on the network. So all of those things are the ideas behind the Convex coin. So see point from Riley, running a peer on a network with incredibly low fee, what is the peer incentive? Is a great question. So first of all, because Convex has a lot of scalability, you're going to get many more transactions through. So in terms of the incentive for a peer, well, that you might be getting less per transaction, but you're going to be getting more transactions. And on top of that, we also have a system whereby the network has a pool of fees that are almost like prepaid fees, if you like, that is part of the foundation grant, and that gets distributed to peers as well. So not only do you get the user fee from the transactions executed, you also get a share of this fee pool, which is like distributed as an extra incentive for peers as we get started. Now that peer incentive for the pool is going to be much larger in the early days. So we're going to put a percentage on that for peers in the early days, and that might be quite a big number. It might be up to a few million Convex coins, perhaps, which would be available to peers in the early days who operate peers and who run the infrastructure and have sufficient stake will be able to claim a share of that pool. Over the longer term, of course, that pool sort of as that pool runs down and it's all being claimed, then it switches over and it becomes more about collecting the transaction fees on applications and usage. But yes, exactly. So as Rich says, the peers secure the network. They get an incentive for helping to set up the network in the early days, and in the longer term, they get a share of all of the transactions which go through the network once the network has grown to full scale. So Kimuri asks, how many transactions might be needed to earn one Convex coin? I assume that's talking from the perspective of a peer. So it will depend on two things. It will depend on how complex those transactions are. So the larger, more complex transactions will get a higher fee. So we have in Convex this concept called juice. If you're familiar with the Ethereum network, it's roughly the same as gas, which is one of the things that helps to calculate the transaction fee. If you use a lot of juice in the transaction, it's going to be a more expensive transaction. Now the other factor is the juice price. So there is a variable called juice price, which we use to balance the network. Now this is a variable dynamic thing. So if the network's getting congested, the juice price goes up. And if the network is underutilized, the juice price goes down. So it's almost like congestion pricing for the network. So if the juice price was high and you execute complex transactions, maybe a Convex coin, you might earn a Convex coin with 10, 50, 100 transactions. Whereas if the juice price is low and they're simple transactions, it might be thousands of transactions before you get one Convex coin in fees. So it would vary based on the complexity of the transactions and the dynamic juice price, which is something that we will actually need to balance as the network grows. What is the right settings, if you like, for the juice price? So we're going to launch ProtoNet with a set of parameters. Those parameters might be changed if they're needed for network stability. But yeah, if it's a simple account-to-account transfer, I mean, hundreds, thousands at least. So yeah, you'll be able to get quite a lot of transactions through. How long will it take to get to thousands of transactions? Well, so there's a question of what is a transaction is really important. Yeah. So a transaction can be something like a swap, a trade. So an automated market maker trade. It could be something like a payment, a peer-to-peer payment. It could also be something which has nothing to do with any economics. Yeah, like updating some information on a self-sovereign ID, or even deploying some code for a smart contract. All of these things are transactions. Yeah. So if you've got any active systems trading, let's say a trading bot alone that's trading a number of different currencies could be running thousands of transactions, every hour or maybe even every minute, because it's constantly rebalancing some portfolio, or it's trading based on price trends, etc. Likewise, any widely used user app, you would get thousands of transactions very quickly. Yeah, imagine a game where each time you play the game for 10 minutes, a single user might cause thousands of transactions on an on-chain game. So it really depends on two things. It depends on the nature of the what the users are doing, and so some things will cause a lot of transactions, some things will cause relatively few transactions, and obviously multiply that by the number of users. Yeah. So if we have 1 million users playing a game once a day, and each time playing session is 50 transactions, well, that's 50 million transactions a day, which is comfortable for the Convex network to be handling. And at that level, you're getting quite reasonable income for people who are operating peers. Obviously, when you get up to the higher scales, so if you look at things like Visa network, which is maybe looking at 1,000, 2,000 transactions per second, then that's obviously a lot more transactions in a day. But yeah, great questions. And some of these questions can't be directly answered right now. Yeah, we can make some forecasts and some predictions, and you can do some back of the envelope calculations. But that's all just forecasts. Yeah, and modeling. So it will depend on what kind of applications, what kind of usage patterns we see in the network. Another interesting thing, peers themselves may want to execute some transactions. So peers have a bit of metadata that they run on the network, which describes things about their things, like their public address, their public URL. The peers can themselves execute transactions to update that information. Peers also execute a transaction if they want to withdraw stake or add stake. So every time a peer wants to increase their stake or decrease their stake, that's also a transaction. So there's some amount of transactions are actually internal among them peers themselves. I don't know if that's a good. I don't know. That's a good enough answer, but hopefully it gives you the idea that it's like saying how many emails are going to get sent on the internet. Yeah, at the beginning, I'm pretty sure the people who designed email didn't know quite what that was going to look like, and it turned out to be a pretty big number in the long term. Can I describe the economics behind how I designed the release curve? Yes. So this is a great question. So one of the challenges with issuing a token is, and let's step back. Let's look at how a lot of ICOs did this. Yeah. What a lot of the ICOs would do they would pre-mine, because everyone was sort of had the mindset back in the days of Bitcoin mining, and that the way that coins came into existence was via mining. Now, in a system that doesn't depend on proof of work, which includes Convex, includes some other more modern decentralized systems, there's no such thing as mining, but people still had this idea that, okay, well, what is the share of the coins that go to miners? And they had this idea that, okay, well, all the coins ultimately go to miners, but because we don't need to do mining, we're going to pre-mine it and basically allocate a bunch of coins to let's say early investors or the founders or the starting team. That will be quite a large percentage. Yeah, you can look up the percentages of how much of a total coin allocation went to founders and VCs and insiders in the early days, and they're quite high numbers. And I saw that as a problem. Yeah, and if you imagine the US dollar, and someone said, well, okay, we're going to use the US dollar as a world currency, but we're going to make the people who operate the US Treasury are going to start with 60% of all dollars in existence. Yeah, and that's going to be true forever. And if they print more, they print 60% of the newly printed ones. Yeah, so it's not the kind of system which can support a fair, open monetary system if a small number of insiders basically own the vast majority of the wealth for all eternity. And that's not the kind of system I wanted to build. I wanted to build something that was ethical and open and that had the right kinds of incentives and awards. And you see it with Bitcoin too. You've got a few Bitcoin whales who got in the early days, have got vast wealth for doing comparatively little, because they simply got involved at a certain right time. And that wasn't the objective with Convex. The objective was very much to say, okay, this is meant to be a utility token. It's meant to be for people to use. It's not meant to be a security or a sort of get rich speculative token. It's for real technology that people can use to build real decentralized systems, decentralized economic systems, and the kind of applications that are capable of mass adoption. So the Convex coin tokenomics really needed to reflect those kind of objectives. So the question then is, okay, well, how do you issue coins if you want something like that? And the way the Convex works is as a release curve. So if you imagine a total amount of coins that might ever possibly exist, a billion coins, we don't issue that billion coins at the beginning of the Convex network. Yeah, it's all basically held back. And what we do is we have a curve defined, and it says as coins get issued, the price at which coins are issued increases. Yeah, and we currently denominate that in US dollars. We've got the Lewis curve linked to US dollars. But the idea is, look, if the earlier you buy, the earlier coins are issued, the cheaper they are, and as more coins are issued, the issue price increases. Now that money is not going into anyone's pocket. It is getting recycled into the ecosystem. Yeah, so that'll get used for grants and for software development and for building technology and supporting projects in the ecosystem via the foundation, which is a not-for-profit. So the coin issuance is designed so that as the need for more coins in the ecosystem grows, more coins can be purchased at any time, which means that there's always coins available for people to have and to use, because it is meant to be a utility token, which means these things need to be available. But at the same time, it's only ever getting issued at a higher price than people who bought earlier paid. So the price is constantly increasing, and that value is being recycled into the ecosystem. So if anyone is buying Convex coins, they know that the value of their purchase is effectively going to be used to support the Convex ecosystems, and therefore indirectly support the usage of the coins and the technology which support the coins in the future. So that's the design of the release curve. The actual mathematics of the curve, I'm happy to discuss it in more detail on the Discord or share some slides. But it's roughly a straight line to start with. Yeah. So if you think about a curve, the price basically goes up in a straight line as coins get issued for the first bit. and then it sort of curves up towards infinity as you get closer and closer to the full 1 billion worth of coins being issued. Now there is a mathematical formula behind that curve. It was simply chosen because it has a few nice mathematical properties, and it strikes a balance between, you know, rewarding people who purchase early, but also making sure that coins are always likely to be available. So I see Riley, use of Bitcoin as a global payment network. So that's, it's a big difference from Bitcoin, yeah. So we're basically saying we want the coin to be available as a global utility token. It can be used for payments. You can use Convex coin for payments, and it ought to be relatively stable because the release curve actually links it to real value via the US dollar, but it's not a stable coin. Yeah, so you'd expect Convex to be maybe more stable than some tokens where the entire price is driven by supply and demand in a relatively narrow traded margin, but it's not fixed to the US dollar, so it can float. The one thing I would say is that a rational participant in the market, if they see the Convex coin price goes high, and if that price goes above the price on the release curve, then it would be rational for someone to buy from the release curve rather than to buy it on the market, because they're just going to get it cheaper and then they can sell on the market. So there's an arbitrage opportunity. So the release curve sort of it gets linked to the market price to a certain degree by that arbitrage opportunity. So question, what's my background in economics? So I did economics a long time ago at Cambridge University. I actually started doing maths, but I sort of decided I found economics a bit more interesting because it was more linked to the real world and the real problems we want to solve. So I switched from maths to economics in my sort of second year at Cambridge. My focus was mainly around theoretical economics. So I did a lot of stuff like game theory, choice theory, rational choice, rational expectations, all of the quite mathematical side of economics. That included stuff like looking at market equilibrium, general equilibrium theory, all of this kind of stuff. Obviously quite a bit of econometrics, but I was more of a microeconomics and economic theory kind of person in that sense. And I think, you know, to me that's what economics is really about. Yeah. It's really about what are the micro decisions that people make, the choices, and what are the impacts of those choices, and how do we create the right incentives so that hopefully people make better choices. So that was always the area that fascinated me in economics, and game theory linked very much with that. Yeah, so I was always a chess player when I was young, and a card player, and you know, game theory appealed to me, the sort of link between economics. So a couple more questions. Does that help keep it stable? I think that's a question regarding to the release curve. Yes, I think the release curve does sort of help to keep the Convex coin price stable, but it's not a cap, so it doesn't in any way stop the price from going up, and it's not a floor either. So it creates a link to real world value, but it doesn't necessarily pin it precisely. And that's you know, I think that's an advantage. I don't think you necessarily want your network utility token to be tied to a fiat currency. It's good that it's independent, because the way that Convex is designed is very much, look, okay, we've got the Convex coin, but we also got stable coins. We also have stable coins for US dollars, for sterling, for euros, any other currency people want to launch. It's an open economic system. Anyone can create a stable coin. Nation states can create their own stable coin. Banks can create their own stable coins, and all of these can be stable. Yeah. So if someone wants to trade in a stable coin, they can pick one of these stable currencies rather than use the Convex coin, and then they can swap between them if they want to. Yeah, so that's very much the way that the system is designed. Yeah, the Convex coin is really for the network capabilities as the utility token, and people can then. It's an open ecosystem. Anyone can build coins that support different use cases, and that might include being stable against some fiat currency. And I know a couple of people on the chat here are building stable coins on Convex. So that's how I would imagine a lot of regular users would like to see their prices denominated in a currency that they feel comfortable with and recognize. So a technical question from Kimiri. From the release curve, when the price is $11.11, then 100 million are in circulation. I think that is correct from my memory of the release curve. So about when 100 million Convex coins are in circulation, price being about $11 at that point. I'd have to check, but I think that's right. So yes, at that point, Convex coin market cap would be 1.1 billion. Let me make a very important caveat. When people say unicorn startup, what they mean is the valuation of the company. What that would mean in the Convex context would be the valuation of the market value of the issued Convex coins at that time. Yeah. So that's not so much the value of a specific company. It's simply saying that, okay, there's 100 million of these things, and people are willing to pay $11 each. Yeah. So the analogy with a company and a sort of a startup is not 100% accurate. It's a slightly different thing. Yeah, like, okay, for example, you wouldn't value the US economy by the size of the US dollar money supply. Yeah, that's not the value of the US economy. It's simply a money supply that's being used in the US economy and beyond. But yes, yes, you can quote that, providing I can just check the number, because I don't have the number right in front of me, but I think those numbers are correct. Thank you very much, Riley. Sounds like you can trust me with tokenomics. Yeah, well, I've looked at a lot of these, and I was never very satisfied with any of the tokenomic models I saw. Most of them either were designed to help people cash out and get rich quick, which is obviously great for people who want to cash out and get rich quick, but that's not really what Convex is about. Convex is about creating a protocol for the the future of the digital economy. So it's a slightly different objective. The one thing I did like on that topic, I've always liked things like curation markets. Yeah, and Convex release curve was in fact a little bit inspired by the idea of curation markets, where you have a market where, as the interest or as the demand for a particular entity goes up, then the price rises. So a bonding curve, and you can have a curation market with some kind of bonding curve. And the Convex coin release curve is very similar to a bonding curve of the type you might see in some kind of curation market, but that, instead of using it as a bonding curve, it's adapted for a tokenomic release curve. Kimiri asks, in the USA, BTC and Ether commodities, would this apply to Convex Gold? Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, I would say we're closer to ETH in the sense that Convex coins enable computation. So Convex coins allow you to execute smart contracts. They allow you to execute arbitrary logic. They even let you run a database. You can run on-chain databases and on-chain, some very complicated on-chain data structures in Convex, as if it was like a database backend almost. So So in that sense, Convex is probably a bit more similar to ETH. Now, Bitcoin, yes, I know you can do some clever things with it if you're ingenious, but it's more just a payment currency by design. Whereas Ethereum and Convex are designed to run a decentralized virtual machine with smart contracts. But from the point of view of of classification, yes, I'd say that you could see them all as tokens that have some degree of utility, and yeah, and it's a utility token, and the reason it has value is because it enables you to do things that that you want to do in some way. And in the case of Convex, that's running decentralized economic systems at scale with high performance, low latency for users, so that we can get mass adoption of decentralized tech. When will Convex coins be available to purchase? First up, we have sold some Convex coins already, but unfortunately, it's not retail. So we have sold some coins to private investors and VC firms. Relatively small amount, by the way. It's not silly money at the moment. But the reason for that is because of the regulations, and we can't make a public offering of Convex coins until it's really established as a utility coin. Having said that, the good news is we will be launching the Convex Protonet in the relatively near future. Should be around the beginning of next year. Which will be the first live version of the Convex network, where it will have live Convex coins. And at that point, Convex coins are fully tradable and fully available for people to exchange and purchase. There's a number of companies that are potentially going to be able to offer Convex coins available for purchase once that network is live. So it's a very much watch this space thing, but the answer is yes. Convex coins will be generally available relatively soon, and they're already available to private purchasers if they're qualified investors or institutional purchasers. Unfortunately, for many regulatory reasons, we can't offer those to retail purchasers at the moment. Which are likely exchanges? I mean, in the long term, possibly all of them. I mean, we've had conversations with quite a lot of different exchanges at various points, and obviously, we prioritize based on which are the most interesting exchanges and which ones offer the best sort of proposition in terms of being a good route to market. But in the long term, we'd expect Convex to be on all major exchanges, or at least all interesting exchanges. And plus hopefully a few new ones, because I think the exchange market is certainly one that could do with some innovation and competition. Question from Convex World: how can people earn coins by contributing to the network? Absolutely great question. So there's basically two ways to get Convex coins. One is to purchase them, and as I say, we have this release curve tokenomic model by which coins could be purchased. And 75% of coins are available on the release curve. The other 25% are available through grants and awards. So if anyone does something of value for the Convex network and ecosystem, the Convex Foundation is, or its mission, if you like, is to distribute Convex coins to people who do something of value. And that can mean anything. It can mean contributing code, it can mean building an app, it can mean doing some cool marketing, it can mean even just being a helpful, friendly member of the community, are all very valuable things. So Convex coin awards are available to contributors, and yes, exactly, just sort of message, there are bounties, and there's some bounties that we know that we're quite keen for people if they want to do. And come and chat about the Discord if you want to get a bounty or earn a bounty for doing something useful. So the security bounties, if you manage to find and patch a bug anywhere in Convex, you get Convex coins. That's a sort of no questions asked thing. There's a bounty that no one has managed to claim yet, and I'm very proud of this one. in no development snapshot ever in Convex has anyone managed to steal a Convex coin from another user's account. So we've never had a security breach of the Convex coin, even in development and testing snapshots. There is a bounty for that if anyone fancies trying to win it. So the answer is, the rule is very simple. You have to take a coin unauthorized from someone else's account without stealing their private key. Yeah, if you steal their private key just because you stole their phone, it doesn't count. But you've got to, if you can get crack the code and get a Convex coin from anyone else's account, congratulations, bounty is yours. So do have a go if you think you can pull that one off. It has to be a code defect. It can't be stealing someone's mobile phone or stealing their password or anything like that. But yeah, sorry, Wiley. I mean, it's still a nice thing to try and hack the security of someone's key management, but it's not a Convex code bounty, unfortunately. So then other question: are the exchanges custodians? So in general, exchanges would be custodians on behalf of clients. So if someone bought Convex coins on a custodial exchange, the exchange would generally be holding the private keys and controlling accounts in which their clients' coins were stored. That is the general rule. I would say there are, as always, there's exceptions. So you can have non-custodial applications. So you could have an exchange that immediately pays the coins into a non-custodial account. So you're fully self-sovereign as soon as you've made the trade. That's possible. And the other thing that is possible is we do have an automated decentralized exchange, DEX, which is fully non-custodial. Yeah, there's no custodian anywhere in that entire thing. It's just purely smart contracts. So that's a way of doing exchange related activities purely on chain in Convex, but non-custodial. I would add obviously the caveat that if you're doing the DEX on chain, then it can only be on chain currencies. You can't use that to convert to and from fiat. Yeah, you've got to actually connect via the on-chain tokens. So you could use it, for example, to swap Convex coins for a stable coin, but you couldn't use it to swap Convex coins for US dollars in your bank account using purely the decentralized exchange. You'd have to go via a custodial exchange or some payment provider for that. Next question: Convex is open source. How can developers join the project so they know that they are accepted into the fold? Well, two things. One, join the Discord. That's where people hang out, people chat, people answer questions, and we discuss stuff. We do informal hangouts and things on the Discord, and a lot of us are around at any time. So do just join there and chat. And of course, we have the GitHub. So the GitHub is the place where all the actual code lives. And if you want to get involved by commenting on issues or writing some code, hey, thanks guys for posting the link. And yeah, just it's Convex Dev, Convex-DEV on GitHub. Let me just post the link here. 1 second. Convex Dev. Okay. I see several of us are using the Convex World account, so but that was me just posting the GitHub link. So GitHub Convex Dev, a bunch of interesting repositories there. There's the Convex main repository, which has all the peer implementation, the protocol implementation, and all the sort of the core tools. But then there's also client libraries like for Python, for JavaScript, for Clojure, etc., etc. So those are also very valuable, and you know, we'll give awards for contributors to the the libraries for different languages, for example. So if you're an F# developer and you really want to use Convex using F# as a language, we don't currently have an F# client library. If you want to write one, great. Everyone's welcome to get involved and, you know, create those sort of those kind of plugins and sort of add-ins to the ecosystem. And that's all that, again, that's all on the Convex GitHub. There's also issues. So if you see bugs or issues that you want to work on, then people can take a look at those. They can comment, and they can also, you know, if you've something you fancy working on, then again, you know, just probably ask on the Discord is best, just to make sure that no one else is working on the same thing at the same time. But yeah, we can do all that, and we obviously Convex Coin Awards go to contributors for, you know, doing all kinds of different things. Let's have a look at the questions. So that was coins via contributions, and the links for Discord and Convex Dev. Oh yeah, so we're just trying out YouTube Live as a channel this time. So hopefully it's a reasonable channel. If people like it, then we'll continue to use YouTube Live. We could also do more informal hangouts on the Discord, or if people think, on the other hand, if we hate YouTube, then we can switch to and try something else. So any sort of feedback or things like that would be very welcome. I still don't know how, by the way, if we can get like a panel of a wall of people so that we can have a bit more of a interactive chat with YouTube, with the YouTube Live. Maybe you can't do that, or maybe it's just I don't quite know how to do it yet. So if anyone knows anything about that, please drop a comment, or, you know, let me know on the Discord how that works. Jonathan says, so far so good. Yeah, you know, Jonathan, I know you're an expert when it comes to producing these kind of things. So thank you. That means a lot to me. Is there any benefit of contributors helping out early in the project? Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, so I'd say a couple of things. I mean, one, obviously, we can be somewhat more generous with Convex Coin Awards early on. So that's a reason to get involved early. The second thing is we keep getting great opportunities coming up, yeah, which aren't maybe Convex itself, but are opportunities on Convex, whether that's grants, whether that's startup projects, whether it's interesting things to entrepreneurial opportunities, these kind of things. They're all great opportunities, and, you know, there's way more opportunities and things that would be cool to do than exist. Then we have people to do them at the moment. So getting involved early is a way to find out about those, and maybe get on board with things that you personally are passionate about. And I'm a very big believer that everyone should do stuff that they're, you know, passionate about and interested in, rather than waiting till launch. Yeah, I mean, what you can do now, Convex, already we have a full test net. We always have full smart contract capabilities, full test net. You can build things, you can test things, you can create smart contracts, you can create assets for testing purposes, you can build your prototypes. We built games that use Convex. You know, people have built integrations from game engines like Unity. There's you know, it's all working as in terms of the tech. We are going through a few refinements as we get ready for launching ProtoNet, but basically the tech is already there for development purposes. The only thing that changes when we go live with ProtoNet is now the assets are real. Yeah, the Convex coins are real, the data is real. It's not just a testing environment anymore. It's a real environment. So if you really want to get involved and help develop things or test things out, then now is as good a time as any. If you actually want to use real assets or trade digital currencies and these kind of things for real, then obviously you have to wait till ProtoNet for that. So Taurus, NFTs. So we do have NFT tech. We have some cool NFT implementations and front ends. We have a bit of front end stuff, but not very much right now. So there's opportunities building NFT front ends and this kind of thing, marketplace, this kind of thing, if people are interested in that. Taurus DEX, again, we've got a decentralized exchange, which is certainly a powerful system. Now that's an open system; anyone can interact with the DEX, but what tools and what front end do you want? Again, that's an open thing. What are the attributes of DeFi? So skepticism at EBC 2023, which I assume was the European Blockchain Convention 2023. Look, I mean, I think what's fundamentally important about DeFi is that it is truly peer-to-peer and it has no middlemen. Yeah, you are in control of the assets you want to hold and manage and own, and who you send them to, and who you trade with, and how you transact with those assets is completely up to you. And there's no middlemen. There's never anyone who can say, you can't do that, you can't have that asset, you can't transfer that asset, you have to pay me a commission. There's no way that value can be extracted unless you want to pay. If someone's providing some value, then of course, you know, you pay them for it, you buy their service. But DeFi enables truly peer-to-peer exchange of value without these transaction costs and obstacles that otherwise exist. And just to be very clear, when I say transaction costs, I don't mean just the little fragment transaction cost that you see. Whenever you do anything in the financial system, you're paying for it. Yeah, it's what a lot of people forget, that let's say you've got an investment fund and it's paying you 12% per annum. Yeah, great. You're happy, you've got a good return. But in fact, if you'd done that, bought those same stocks yourself, you could have been getting 14%, 15%. Yeah, you're paying a significant amount of your portfolio for someone to manage that fund for you. And you may not be seeing it as a transaction cost, but ultimately there's a transaction costs, yeah, that people are adding. Now you may say, okay, I'm happy to pay that, yeah, but in quite a lot of the financial sector, there's no value being added. Yeah, they're simply gatekeepers who have a monopoly position or some ability to extract value without really adding anything to the user. Now, in the past, maybe these services added value, but now they don't add any value anymore. Yeah. So now that we've got cryptographic security, you don't need bank vaults. Yeah, that was originally the value out of a bank, was it would keep money safe because it had a vault. You know, that's no longer a value-added thing. Yeah, and of course then banks branch out into loans and credit and all of these kind of things. But you know, ultimately your users are paying for all of this. And the question is that a fair price? Well, that's an open question, but certainly I think people should have the option of doing it in a very low transaction cost efficient way. I think that's what some of the arguments for DeFi is, that people should have the choice of doing these on a peer-to-peer basis without going through centralized financial institutions. Oh, great question. RW, why can't current DeFi solutions and blockchains create a global decentralized network? Why do we need Convex, a different DLT, not blockchain? So there's a great question. There's a bit of a hidden assumption in there, which is that Convex is technically not a blockchain. Yeah. So from the point of view that a blockchain is a system where which a chain of blocks is established. Each block has a pointer to the previous block. Therefore, they're chained together by these cryptographic hashes. Now, Convex doesn't have that chaining aspect where the chain is created, but it does still allow you to execute transactions on a decentralized network. So, you know, we'd say Convex is a form of DLT, but it's not technically a blockchain, even though it can solve similar kinds of problems. Now, one of the challenges is that blockchains have these fundamental limits to scalability, and Convex solves some of these limits, which is one of the reasons why I think Convex is a compelling design for the future. But as a result of these scalability limits, there's always been problems getting transactions through blockchain networks. And so in theory, fantastic. We just have a blockchain and everyone's problem in the world is suddenly solved. It's all this beautiful, decentralized, happy future. Now, in the real world, that's not true. Yeah. And it's not true because in order for these decentralized economic systems to exist, you need to have consensus sets. Yeah, you need to have the ability to transact and get consensus across, you know, the systems which are involved in a transaction. Now, if your system has very limited ability to represent transactions, and this is true of basically all blockchain systems, they can't represent very sophisticated transactions, so they have limited computational capability. And they can't represent very many transactions, so they have limited throughput. And they also take a long time often to confirm the transactions, so you get very slow latency, which is really bad for user experience. If you've ever used a blockchain system, you know, waiting for, you know, seconds, minutes, even hours for transactions to get confirmed isn't really acceptable from a user point of view. And because they've got these limits and restrictions, and because it's also very expensive, very experimental, hundreds of different things spring up, none of which has much capacity. And then suddenly you find you're starting to have to bridge across them. And in order to get a big network, you're having to connect 50 of these things. You get these layer 2 solutions. You get all of these architectures, you know, being built on top to try and solve the problem that effectively you're trying to link together a lot of small, isolated, underpowered blockchains. And that doesn't create a good substrate for building a global decentralized economic system. Yeah, in fact, it's terrible. Yeah, it's almost like we're creating the bad banking architectures of the 1980s and the 1990s, where these banks would have, you know, thousands of IT systems linked together like spaghetti. You know, the blockchain world is just building all of that again, and you know, it ultimately will never scale, and it'll never provide the sort of compelling experience that users will demand if you're going to replace traditional models. So the reason that Convex is different is it very much says, okay, well, rather than trying to you know, glue together a solution out of a lot of subpar components, do it in a very clean and simple and efficient way. And that's what Convex really offers. It's a very simple and efficient way to build decentralized economic systems and decentralized economic applications that doesn't get in the way. So, you know, not really something we can do on this call, but you know, some other call I'd love to do a sort of a demo of how easy it is to just create an asset and a front, and maybe even build a front end to interact with a digital asset on Convex. And it is incredibly simple, and for both the developers and for users and for the user experience we can offer. So I think it makes it practical. Yeah, it makes it possible that we can actually deliver on the decentralized vision, which we're never going to be able to do if we're just creating this sort of cobbled together architecture with a lot of blockchains that really don't quite have the capabilities to offer what the decentralized world needs. Great question. A lot to unpick there. Two-minute warning. Okay, so 2-minute warning. Any more questions before we close off for today? Yeah, some great questions, everyone. So we've covered a bit of everything here. We've covered quite a bit about tokenomics. We've covered quite a bit about what are the sort of the integrations with the different kinds of exchanges, and also some of the opportunities and things for getting involved. Thanks for all of those. It's always good to to talk about these things, review what we're doing, and also change some of these. Yeah, if we're doing any of this wrong, or if there's a way to do it better, then I want to see the discussion. Let's discuss that. Yeah, and Discord's probably a better place to go and do some of that. But if people see really good ways of helping to build better decentralized economic systems in the future, we're about enabling about. That's what this community, that's what this ecosystem is for. So I look forward to the ongoing conversations. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care. Bye for now.